The cosmic dance spins on a breath, rooted in eternal harmony, watched by the divine presence who acts as the balance keeper. He is the weaver of realms and architect of fate, intervening as the mediator of change. When the path ends, he becomes the guide of the dead and judge of souls, ensuring that the protector of life safeguards the cycle.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've opened a massive stack of sources today on ancient Egyptian funerary religion, and we are really zeroing in on one of its most recognizable figures.
But also one of the most misunderstood.
Exactly. The jackal god, Anubis.
We're moving well beyond the spooky, the pop culture image of this dark, menacing figure and into his true, complex portfolio.
Right.
Anubis was less about death and more about meticulous transition and rebirth. So our mission today is to explore his roles, from embalming master and guardian to psychopomp, the ultimate guide of souls.
And we're going to connect that single figure to the much larger Egyptian worldview of divine guidance, this core principle they called SOU.
Which covered everything. I mean, from a pharaoh's life to a common citizen's eternal journey.
Our sources are going to take us through some monumental archaeology, specifically that iconic Anubis shrine from Tutankhamun's tomb. They also dissect the detailed mythology that sharply distinguishes him from the chaotic god set, and we even have academic papers analyzing funerary text right across the Greco-Roman period.
That's a lot of ground to cover.
It is! Okay, let's unpack this and maybe start with the gold.
Let's do it.
So when Howard Carter found Tutankhamun's tomb, KV62, the Anubis shrine was one of the first truly magnificent objects he revealed. It was find number 261.
And the photos of that moment,
Yeah.
they're just haunting. That recumbent jackal figure just staring out of the darkness.
It really is.
And its location, it just speaks volumes about its function. It was found positioned strategically beyond the unwalled entrance to the treasury room.
And it was facing west, specifically.
Exactly. For the Egyptians, west was the direction of the afterlife, the land of the dead. By placing Anubis there, they weren't just decorating the tomb.
Yeah.
They were establishing him as the primary guardian of the necropolis. He was the spiritual gateway.
Let's get into the object's physical details, because they really do encode his function. Carter famously described the shrine as a pylon.
Right, because of his trapezoidal shape, like a miniature temple gateway.
It's wood, covered in gold leaf and lacquer. But the centerpiece, that jackal figure, that's what commands your attention.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the jackal is painted entirely black. This is maybe the single most important detail we can emphasize for you.
It's so counterintuitive for us.
It is. Black was not a color of mourning or fear in ancient Egypt. It was the color of the fertile Nile silt after the annual inundation.
So it's about life.
It's about regeneration, rebirth, the transformation of the body through embalming. The use of black, with those little gold leaf accents on his ears and collar, shows him not as a figure of grim death, but as a catalyst for new life.
And the artisans made sure the whole shrine was a complete statement of funerary protection. The sides are decorated with the jed pillars.
Symbols linked directly to Osiris, signifying stability and endurance.
And paired with those are the cheat knots.
The Isis knots, which represent protection and life. So you have endurance and life, order and protection. It's all synthesized right there in the architecture of this one object.
It confirms his whole role as the system's administrator.
That's it.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting on the chronological front. The sources show the statue wasn't pristine from Tutankhamun's era.
No, and this is what's fascinating. The evidence of reuse and historical continuity. The jackal was found carefully wrapped in linen
Right.
that had an ink inscription dating back to the 7th regnal year of Pharaoh Akhenaten.
Akhenaten, the heretic king.
The very one.
Yeah.
And then tucked right underneath the figure was an ivory writing palette inscribed with the name of Akhenaten's eldest daughter, Pantheon.
Wow, so this thing was an heirloom. It survived the whole tumultuous transition from the Atenist heresy back to the traditional religion.
It connects Tutankhamun's funeral directly to that chaotic period nearly a generation earlier. It just speaks to the incredible respect they had for these sacred objects.
It didn't matter who was pharaoh. Now, the shrine was mounted on a sledge, which shows it was pulled during the funeral procession.
Yes.
But a protective element found nearby connects Anubis to all that sensationalized curse lore.
That's right. This small, protective device known as a magic brick was found at the entrance to the treasury right in front of the shrine.
And what was on it?
It had an inscription of a potent protective formula, something like, "I, who hinder this hand from choking the secret chamber." These bricks were placed at cardinal points to ward off negative spirits.
And the press just ran with that.
The international press seized upon it and twisted the text into the melodramatic curse of the pharaohs. But its actual function was one of profound order and protection, which aligns perfectly with Anubis's duties.
So moving past the shrine, Anubis is often just seen as a cemetery sentinel. But our sources make it clear his job description was much broader, much more vital.
So much more.
What were those defining roles that elevated him beyond just the guardian of the dead?
Well, if we look at the bigger picture, Anubis was a truly ancient deity. His authority actually predates Osiris's rise to prominence during the Middle Kingdom.
So he was the original top dog, so to speak.
He was. Initially, Anubis was the chief god of the dead. When Osiris took over as ruler of the underworld, Anubis's role shifted, but it remained utterly indispensable.
He became more of a specialist.
The chief technician of resurrection, the embalmer-in-chief, and the faithful psychopomp, the spiritual guide ensuring the soul navigated that dangerous path to judgment.
And we see that high status in his titles, his epithets. They're much more complex than just jackal god.
Oh, absolutely. Two are just critical for understanding his work. He was known as Jamie Rat, which translates to he who is in the place of embalming.
So the patron of the mortuary workshops.
Right. But even more revealing is the title JMP Brochet,
Which means?
Anubis over the mysteries. This tells us he was the master of sacred secrets, the one who oversaw the hidden rituals that allowed the physical body to become eternal.
And the culmination of all this preparation is that famous scene, the judgment in the Hall of Two Truths.
That's the critical juncture. Anubis's guidance doesn't just end when the body's preserved. He stands right there, acting as the spiritual guide and recorder, overseeing the weighing of the heart.
Against the feather of Ma'at.
The physical manifestation of truth and cosmic order. And this wasn't just a ceremony, it was an existential quality check. If the heart, which for them was the seat of intelligence and morality, was heavy with sin,
The balance tipped, and that's where the terrifying creature Amit came in.
Amit, the devourer, stood ready to consume the unworthy heart. And that meant eternal extinction, the worst possible fate.
But if the heart was balanced,
If it was perfectly balanced, Anubis prepared the deceased for the final step. Introduction to Osiris, the sovereign ruler of the underworld.
Sure.
His job as guide was done.
this careful administration, that's what makes the common idea that Anubis is some sort of ancient Egyptian Satan so completely wrong.
Oh, entirely wrong. Our sources are very clear. The definition of chaos and malicious evil, that actually fits his brother, Set.
Precisely. Set is the personification of Isfet, total chaos and disorder, who murdered his own brother Osiris.
Anubis, on the other hand, is the epitome of Ma'at order, duty, benevolence. His defining act wasn't murder. It was saving, preserving, and protecting Osiris's body after Set dismembered it.
Which established the entire system of mummification.
And that contrast is cemented in that fantastic myth about the leopard skin.
It's such a vivid story.
It really is. Set, always trying to introduce disorder, disguised himself as a leopard to approach Osiris's body. Anubis intercepted him. He attacked Set with a hot poker.
Which is how the leopard got its spots, supposedly.
That's the story. And then he skinned him and wore Set's skin as a coat. It's a symbol of Anubis wearing the defeat of chaos, a demonstration of his power over the forces of Isfet.
Which makes the choice of his animal form so crucial. Now, we call him the jackal, but the Egyptologists in our sources add a little note of caution there.
They do. The term jackal is what we use, but his form might have been inspired by the African golden wolf or maybe a desert hound.
They were more concerned with the symbolism than the zoology.
Far more. They chose that scavenging canine form because these animals patrolled the edges of the desert and the cemeteries, standing watch over the dead. It was a sentinel role that perfectly matched his duty as guardian of the West.
So his black color, his posture, his role as the orderly embalmer, it all reinforces his function as the master of controlled transformation.
That's it, exactly.
This idea of Anubis as the orderly spiritual administrator brings us to a much larger theme: religious guidance itself, or SSM Domdo. This was more than just a funerary concept, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was a fundamental ethical principle for how one should live and how one achieves eternity. SMMGO guidance was seen as intrinsically linked to MAD, governing the entire moral framework of the nation.
It implied that life was this complex journey, and to succeed in this life or the next, you needed divine direction.
You needed instructions, and this need led to the creation of their most important religious texts.
The pyramid texts, the coffin texts, and later, the Book of the Dead.
They were, in essence, guidebooks for the deceased.
Not just spells, but actual netherworld guides.
Absolutely. They provided the king, or the soul, the Ba, with maps, spells, passwords.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever was required to navigate the treacherous paths of the Duat, the underworld. Think of the Book of Two Ways. It was literally a map to the afterlife inscribed on coffin bases.
Or the Book of Gates. They made sure you were never lost.
Exactly.
And visually, the Eye of Horus was another huge symbol of guidance in those pyramid texts.
A powerful one.
No.
A tool for protection and direction. It was believed to guide the king on the paths of heaven, ensuring his safe passage. It was both a roadmap and a vehicle for safe transit.
I found the linguistic clues around the word for guide, SS pen, so telling.
Yeah.
The hieroglyphic determinative used with the word sometimes showed a seated man with a raised hand.
A clear image of someone signaling direction.
Right.
And if you look deeper, in religious context, the word SSMT was translated as the guiding serpent of God. This ties directly back to royal symbolism.
Yeah.
The protective uraeus snake on the king's diadem wasn't just decoration. Texts show the uraeus acting as a divine guide, burning up the deceased's enemies and keeping them on the righteous path. The whole idea of being guided by God was woven into the structure of their language.
So while Anubis, Ma'at, and goddesses like Hathor were the universal guides to the judgment court, we see some fascinating regional adjustments, especially when Egyptian culture starts to mingle.
Yes. Let's look at the Greco-Roman tombs of El Salamuni. This period shows the incredible flexibility of Egyptian religion.
How so?
At this necropolis near Akhmim, the pictures give us new figures involved in guidance. For instance, in Tomb C3, you see Anubis and a goddess leading the deceased. But they're also leading a distinct black silhouette figure toward the judgment court.
The black silhouette is startling, and it's unique. It sounds like it carried a lot more philosophical weight than just being a picture.
It did. The silhouette played an ambivalent, a double role. Sometimes it seems to represent the blessed, newly reborn deceased.
And other times.
Other times, it represented a malevolent enemy or tortured victim, serving as a negative example or even a counterweight in the judgment scene, a very dramatic visual device.
But the biggest adaptation in these tombs is the local deity who steps in as a physical guide, Heriotes.
And here's where you really see the fusion of cultures. These same tombs feature an anonymous but distinctly human-looking male deity.
Not an animal-headed god, no.
Human. And he exclusively leads the deceased in the processional scenes, the physical walk toward the judgment hall. Scholars are confident this figure is Heriotes, a local deified human god whose cult was powerful in that area, the Panopolite Nome.
And the Greco-Roman influence is unmistakable, right? He's a syncretic figure.
He is. Heriotes was merged or assimilated with the Greek god Hermes, who was also a psychopomp,
A guide of souls.
and Apollo, who represented order and light. This local deity served as a specific human-rooted helper just for guiding the final leg of the procession. His presence validated the deceased's local standing and confirmed their divine assimilation.
So he was like a secondary intercessor, bridging the gap from human life to eternal divinity, just before Anubis took over for the crucial test.
That's a perfect way to put it. The story of Anubis and divine guidance is one defined by order and complexity. He wasn't the Grim Reaper dragging you away.
Yeah.
He was the meticulous spiritual shepherd, ensuring you had the correct knowledge, the funerary texts, and the moral purity to face Osiris. He governed the transition.
From the gold leaf jackal standing vigilant in Tut's tomb, to the sharp symbolic difference between the orderly Anubis and the chaotic Set, and finally to the merging of cultures and a local human guide like Heriotes. The message is clear. The path to eternity was carefully engineered, it was governed by cosmic order, and you needed the right divine staff to guide you there.
So if the concept of SMRE, of guidance, this pervasive structure of ethical and spiritual instruction, was so central to ancient Egyptian society, dictating how kings governed and how the dead achieved eternity, what modern systems of ethical or spiritual guidance might parallel the structure and universal importance of Mat today?
That's something for you to mull over.